with another Fight of the Night review. This is for one that took place on the main card of last night's card at the UFC Apex Center, I believe it was, and it was between Katlyn, Chookagian and Amanda Ribas. So yeah, we got about 3 rounds to go through, so I will try and break this down as best as I can. So let's go. So the fight starts out. It does start really well for Katlyn Chookagian from the beginning. She does start opening with some of her really good striking. She's a viciously underrated boxer, I find, and she's opening up some really good stuff. Amanda is staying there with her, throwing some really good counters. She does land a good body kick at some point, then Katlyn lands a really good body kick. But then, eventually, they're against the cage, and it's not really like a push thing, it's more that Ribas sort of pressures Katlyn against the cage, and she manages to counter something into a really good judo-style takedown, and the stat came up saying that Amanda has now taken down all 7 of her UFC opponents, so that was actually kind of cool stat that they threw up there. But anyway, yeah, Ribas, got the really good slick-looking judo takedown, and now Katlyn, I think it's pronounced Katlyn, even though it's spelled Katlyn. I'm actually looking at the name spelling now, it's very, very weird. But anyway, yeah, Amanda had Katlyn down, and was doing a lot of really good work, managed to get some really good position changes so the referee didn't come in and stop it. Landed some really good shots from the top. Weren't any majorly damaging shots. She was mostly just looking for control. There was a good moment where Katlyn tried to counter into sort of a back take, but Amanda countered to sort of taking side control from it. It was really, really slick looking. And besides one sort of armbar attempt from Katlyn, because she's the much taller fighter, she tried to throw her legs up around the arm, didn't really get anything from it, and Amanda mostly stayed up on top until about a minute 40 left in the round, and as soon as they stood back up, Katlyn starts throwing some really good shots again. She lands a vicious 1-2, probably the best combo she landed in that round. Amanda still landed good stuff, and she's throwing some very open-looking feints, not really countering with a lot of attacks of her own. Doesn't really look for another takedown afterwards, but yeah, it was very exciting back and forth round. I know it didn't really make it sound like such, but it was a very difficult round to call. You know what, I think mostly for control time I might give it to Ribas. The takedown was a massive help in that, and she looked a lot better on the ground than Katlyn did, but Katlyn looked really good on the stand-up too. Yeah, difficult to call, but I give round 1 to Ribas. And then we move on to round 2, and it sort of starts pretty much the same. Katlyn actually managed to get more stand-up in this time around. She's throwing some really, really good combos. She even rocks Ribas with a really good hook. It doesn't knock Ribas down, but it does stun her, and Ribas actually starts throwing her feints a little bit better. She's still making them quite obvious. And there are still a couple of holes in her striking, but she does manage to land some really good counters on Katlyn. And even starts throwing a spinning back kick a couple of times. She only throws it 3 times in total, 2 in this round and 1 in round 3. And with the exception of round 3, each time she throws the kick, it's caught by Katlyn. However, the first time Katlyn catches the kick, Amanda actually manages to sort of push Katlyn against the cage, and she does get another judo-style takedown, although she has to work a lot harder for it, because she's probably a lot tired after all the work she put into keeping control in round 1. But yeah, round 2, up until that takedown point, Katlyn was stunningly accurate with the boxing. She was really, really good with the kicks too. Amanda did let some good body kicks and even a really good body punch at some point, and a couple of good things to the head, but Katlyn definitely had the advantage. She was opening up with some really good combos until she got taken down, and even then, not really many submission attempts and not really many attack attempts. I think Katlyn threw a couple of punches from the bottom, but it was mostly down to Ribas. She was obviously on top. She was throwing some really good strikes, but again, nothing overly damaging. And eventually, Katlyn managed to get away from the takedown, managed to stand up with about a minute 10 in the round, which I found a bit more impressive in this round, because in round 1, they're actually quite close to the cage, and Katlyn didn't really use it to wall walk to escape the takedown, to escape the bottom position, but she managed to get up eventually. In round 2, even though they were pressed against the cage, Amanda did a really smart thing by taking down, when she took down Katlyn, that she kept her away from the cage. So Katlyn got out of it pretty well, considering that she wasn't really in a good position to wall walk or anything. However, round 2, also difficult to call, but I am pitching it slightly in favour of Katlyn. Her striking was definitely a lot better, and obviously when they were stood up, she was landing so clean. Amanda was leaving herself a bit too open. Even threw another spinning back kick, which sort of glanced off of... by the way, all the spinning back kicks were to Katlyn's stomach, which is probably for the best, considering that Katlyn is a lot taller than Amanda. But yeah, Amanda threw another really good spinning back kick that sort of glanced off of Katlyn's stomach, and threw some other good shots, but Katlyn was just there with striking all day, just super clean looking boxing. And then finally we get to round 3, and honestly I was surprised that they managed to keep extending throughout almost the entirety of this last round. Like, Katlyn goes for some really good shots, and she's landing a lot heavier now. She's landing more kicks as well, she's throwing a couple more leg kicks, but she is mostly headhunting, as is Amanda. Amanda is doing less like throwy her arms outy, feinty things, and actually trying to go for some more combos, and she's actually landing quite a good clip on Katlyn, and she does feel a bit more on the back foot in this round as Amanda. However, she does go for a couple of takedowns, but Katlyn is a lot more aware of them in round 3. She's like pushing Amanda away, turning her body really well to avoid being taken down, to avoid being caught in clinch as well, and landing some really great combos, landing a really good 1-2. Amanda does land a good couple of strokes herself, and again, really good body kick, actually lands a really good spinning back body kick that actually does hurt Katlyn. And even as the fight goes, Amanda is starting to build up a little bit of momentum, and she does actually get a takedown on Katlyn, but it's not really one that lasts long. And Katlyn manages to get up easier from this takedown than she was able to in the first 2 rounds. She's actually looking a lot fresher going into round 3 and throughout the entirety of the round, and just landing some really good strokes. Even when she's taken down, she recovers really nicely. And Amanda is still there with her, still landing some really good stuff. But Katlyn, is just landing a lot heavier, a lot cleaner looking. Her 1-2 combo is so good. Her entire boxing game is just really, really good. I think people need to really acknowledge that more from Katlyn. And Amanda's takedown game is really good as well. Her striking, not so much. She was still leaving herself open, but she was landing some really good shots. Even caught Katlyn with a really good right in round 3. So yeah, really nice back and forth. I am giving it again in favour to Katlyn, mostly because it was almost all stand-up, and she definitely had the better of most of the exchanges. Not to say that Amanda was doing horribly in any of the exchanges, but yeah, Katlyn just walked away from the exchanges looking a lot better off. And then we get to the conclusion of the fight and the winner, which was Katlyn by split decision. Absolutely no complaints about the winner, no complaints about the fight either. I actually really enjoyed this one. This is probably going to be one of the sleeper top 10 makers for 2022 for me. I really enjoyed every aspect of this fight. It was a very close fight, very back and forth, very respectful. Like, at the end of all 3 rounds, both women just sort of like acknowledged each other with nods, and like they hugged each other at the end of the fight as well, because they were like, we both did a really good job, and they did. You know, really fun stuff from both of them. It is difficult to say who won what round specifically, but if I had to go for it, I mean, I did say it earlier as I was reviewing this very fight, but yeah, I would give the entirety, well, not the entirety of round 1, the majority of round 1 to Amanda, most of round 2 to Katlyn, and almost all of round 3 to Katlyn as well, but it wasn't as close as I made it sound. It was actually a much more back and forth contest than you would expect, and again, just really, really fun from both women. I would like to see them run this one back, personally, because while I don't have any complaints about the winner, I wish it were a 5 rounds. I would have loved to have seen this go for a full 5 rounds. I know it wasn't the main event. It was like the opener of the main card, I believe. No, it wasn't. It was the 3rd fight on the main card, but it was still a very entertaining fight. I recommend you go seek this one out for yourself. If you need a really good, like, clean, respectful women's MMA style match that's very, very close, back and forth, and just a lot of fun to watch, this fight is going to fit that really, really well. And then we move on to future shit from me. As what's next from me? Well, possibly another Sunset Overdrive stream tonight, because I have a lot of the game to go through, and I don't know if I will do it tonight because I've got to set up the card for the next episode of PPW for AVW, but I could do that tomorrow. You know, I could even do it today and still do the streaming later. I haven't really decided what I want to do yet, and I haven't even gone to start editing on the Sunset Overdrive Let's Play yet, because still got a lot to do. But as for the next video that I can promise you, most likely, well, on Tuesday night, obviously, it's going to be PPW vs AVW, but the next actual video will be another episode of Music of the Week on Thursday. But barring that, yeah, not really many plans for this week, and next, well, I've already told you what's next, so we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, go and seek this fight out for yourself. It was really good, and as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.